Okay, I'm gonna try to keep me in the screen. I'm using this new software because the last two attempts got deleted and I'm getting frustrated, but that's okay. Um, so right now we're gonna do starting our unit about statistics. It's the unit one of the intermediate algebra curriculum. For the next 4 days, I want you guys to think about being smart statistical consumers. You see statistics all around you, charts, graphs, coronavirus charts, graphs, economic charts, graphs, and I want you guys to figure out how to discern what's a good representation of data and what's not a good representation of data. And we're going to start with this. This will be a kind of a checking question that you might have to answer via Google Meet, or maybe I'll post it on my Google Classroom. This graph, this data is correct. This is good data, okay? They're not making up these numbers. But this graph is misleading. Why is that? Let's read the title. 80% of all kids want to do homework on Saturdays. Is that true? Obviously not. No one wants to do homework ever. But why? How did they get that? How did they get that conclusion? Well, look at the pie chart. They actually asked a bunch of kids, and these were the results. This orange was doing homework, and this blue was going to school. So I want you to think about why this is misleading and what question they might have asked them to get that. Okay. Obviously, that's like kind of a elementary question, elementary chart, but you do see these misleading graphs all the time in media. So there have been a lot of studies about coronavirus graphs that make it seem a lot more terrifying than it actually is. I'm not saying it's bad, not bad, but as we look at these graphs, let's just understand that they sometimes can mislead, misinform, and cause panic. So we have to learn how to look at them and be critical thinkers. Here's an example of another graph. This is from Fox News, which is pro President Bush. This is from several years ago, right? And it says Bush had all these tax breaks, right? And people like when the tax rate is low. So right now under President Bush, the tax rate is 35%. The Democrats want to cut some of those tax breaks, and look what happens. If they do that, it'll skyrocket, like probably times four, it looks like, right? But really, if you look at right now, they're at 35%, and up here they're 40%. That's a 5% differential. Why does it look so extreme? Well, really, if you look at the y-axis right here, where does it start? 34%. So people can kind of manipulate graphs to paint the picture they want to paint. Right now, what we're going to do, sorry. Oh, yeah. Right now, what we're going to do is look um, at some very important summary statistics. We're going to look at four things, and three of them are going to be different measurements of average. And in order to do this, we're going to look at world population by decade, right? So in 1940, our world population was 2.5 billion. Now today, it's 7.6 billion. Two of the most populous countries in this world are China and India. And I happen to be half Indian. So when I teach this lesson to my students, this is a train in India because it's so overpopulated. People have to like ride on the tops and not on the sides. And I tell them that this kid right here is me back in the day, and they all believe that. But now, because we're not in person, it's not going to work like that. Actually, let me see if I can. This is just. This is one of the most crowded trains in the world in Bangladesh. You just see people stacked upon steamboat path, and look, it's going to go pretty fast. Okay, so just that's like a little side note. All right, so the first summary statistic we're going to look at is mean. Now remember, these things are also, we call them measures of central tendency or averages. So these are all synonyms, okay? And the first one, number one, is your mean. This is what most people consider an average, where you add up all the numbers and you divide by how many data points there are. So here for world population, if we add these all up, we're actually going to get 4. Okay? And then in order to get the mean, we got to figure out how many there are. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's actually 10. So we're going to divide by 10. And our mean of our world population is 5.4 billion. And if you look at this, that kind of makes sense. I would say that's around the middle-ish, right? So that's our mean. Add up all the numbers, sum, divide by how many numbers there are, how many data points there are. Okay, this is another measure of central tendency or average. So you could call this could be average number 2, median. The definition of median is just the number in the middle. So basically you cross, what you can do is you cross the highest and the lowest, and you keep going until you get to the middle. Now here, we actually have 2 numbers in the middle. And what we can do is we can add them up. So 4.5 plus 5.3 and divide by 2. So we add them up and divide by 2, and that'll get us 4.9. So our median here is 4.9 billion. And if you notice, that's exactly in between these two. So the median is the middle, okay? If you get 2 numbers, add them up and divide by 2. Mode is the number that occurs the most. So it's the most frequent. So here at 2.5 occurs the most, so that's our mode. Now, you can have more than one mode. So let's say 8.3 was also here, right? That means you'd have 2 modes, 8.3 and 8.3. Also, if there's one of everything, you could say there's no mode. The last thing is not an average, but it is important nonetheless. It's called range. You take the largest number and you subtract it from the smallest number. That's it. So it's going to be 8.3 minus 2.5 equals 5.8 billion. So our range measures the spread 5.8 billion. Obviously, the larger the range, the larger the spread. The smaller the range, the smaller the spread. Now we're going to look at how can you use some of these numbers, these different averages, to manipulate things, okay? So what we're going to look at is, this is salaries from Minneapolis public schools. So here are your teacher salaries, right? And the teachers are complaining because they feel like we're underpaid. We want to make more money. So we need to go to the state and prove that we're underpaid. Meanwhile, the heads of the district, like superintendents and whatnot, they don't want to pay us more money. So they want to go to the state and say, look, they make a decent amount of money. And this is our statistical proof. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at some things. So first, we're going to calculate the mean of the staff, the whole staff, everything. So when you add up all these numbers, you get 838, okay? And then we're going to divide by how many salaries there are. So if you count these all up, there's 13. So 838 divided by 13 will get us the mean. And that's actually 64.5. Now, let's see if I can do this. 64.5 thousand is right here. It's about $20,000 more than any teacher makes. So that is kind of misleading. Let's see how the median does. Remember, we cross out, cross out, cross out, cross out, cross out, cross out, cross out. Biggest, smallest, working your way in. Okay. Our median's 37,000. Which, if you look at all the salaries, the teacher salaries, I'd say that's a lot more reasonable. So I'm right, 37. What's our mode? Well, if we look here, 33 is the only number that comes up twice, so it's 33. Okay, so that's the whole staff. Those are the statistics, right? Now let's see, we're going to do a little sub dive. How much do the teachers make and how much do the heads of districts make? So for the teachers, we're going to ignore this. If you add up all the teacher salaries to right here, you get $366,000. So it's a huge difference. And since there's 10 teacher salaries, we're going to divide by 10 equals 36.6. Wait, sorry. Okay, so you'll notice that's the average salary of a teacher is 36.6 thousand. Average salary of the whole staff is 64,000. Way different. What about median? Cross out, but now we're not going to do heads of district, so we're just going to stick with the teachers. Stuck with 2 right here, right? So we could either add them up and divide by 2, which is 34 plus 36, which is 70, divided by 2 is 35. Or for something like this, you could literally just look, what's in between 34 and 36? 35. You notice these haven't changed that much. The mode's still 33. Now, instead of looking at just the teachers, let's look at just the district. So we're just going to look at these guys. If you add all these up, you get 472. Divided by 3 gives you 157. So you can see they make what, like almost 5 times as much money as us lowly teachers. Okay, the median's easy. It's just going to be the middle number, 121,000. And here I would say there's no mode. So now what's going to happen is we can kind of just use this for reference. Shoot. We're just going to look at, this is what's being submitted to the state, the staff statistics. So which of these, mean, median, mode, do you think is the best measure for central tendency? Which is the best measure of average? Well, I would say the median is. Because, as we know, right, what's our mean teacher salary? It's right around $37,000. The median's around 33. And since the heads of districts, there's only 3 data points that are super, we almost call them outliers. We're going to look right here. I think that's way better than the 64.5, which is up here. So, okay. Now let's say us teachers are trying to get a raise. We want to show that we're underpaid. Which statistics do you think we should use? Well, definitely not the mean, because that's showing we're making a lot more money than we're actually making, right? So I'm going to say no mean. So I would say either median or mode. And I would say median once again, median or mode, because it makes us look like we're not making that much money. I think median is a more accurate representation. The mode just happens to be 33,000, right? It could be anything. It could have been 121,000. Now, vice versa, if the district does not want to give us a raise, if the district does not want to give the teachers a raise, and want to show that staff salaries are pretty high, what statistic would they use? Well, here, obviously, if you show them they make $64,000 as a staff, maybe the state will be less inclined to give the teachers a raise. So here, we're going to use mean. So you can see by using one of 3 different measurements, you can paint a whole totally different picture. So you're actually going to do an exercise about this in your assignment. This is Wayzata, the township of Wayzata is outlined, right? It's a very rich town. But sometimes towns, if their average income is under a certain amount, so let's say here $127,000, they'll get huge tax breaks. And what towns can do sometimes is they can absorb some of the surrounding neighborhoods. So what Wayzata wants to do is kind of take little chunks of Plymouth just right around, right? A couple neighborhoods right here, and use their incomes as part of theirs. Because Plymouth is more of a middle class neighborhood, lower incomes. So kind of explore what happens and how towns like richer towns can take advantage of the system. All right. Well, hopefully this video will work.